So June is Brain Injury Awareness Month. Each week in June, we were lucky and we had educational talks focusing on different aspects of recovery following a brain injury. Although today is the last day of Brain Injury Awareness Month, we will continue to host educational talks to support our members, and I hope the community continues to grow with BIRE. I did want to mention that the session will be recorded and put on the BIRE YouTube channel, just so everyone is aware. I will also be monitoring the chat for any questions that will come in. We would appreciate answering them just at the end, but make sure you bring them in because we will get to them. But without delay, Justin, who is a brain injury survivor, will be sharing his story with us today.
So I can start now?
I'm just about to share that.
Okay.
All the tech stuff is fun. Can everyone see the screen okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, Justin, handing over to you.
Okay. My name is Justin Morissette. I am a brain injury survivor. I was born March 14th, 1984 in Edmonton, Alberta. I grew up in Pickering, Ontario. I am married with my wife, Kim, and my daughter, Paisley, who was born just almost 3.5 years ago. Kim and I started dating in 2010. I proposed on Valentine's Day, 2014, in front of the Disney Castle. So the accident happened like a few months after my proposal. So after the accident, when I came home in November, I sat Kim down. I told her, like, if she had left me after the accident happened, like, I would have completely understood. Like, it was a lot, and the fact that she didn't made me love her even more. So, like, I wanted to marry her, like, right away. Like, it was very important. The accident happened on June 3rd, 2014. I was going east on Highway 7 in Ajax when a car crossed over the middle line and hit the driver's side head on, turned my car 45 degrees, and the car behind me T-boned me, which caused a lot of damage to my left side of my body. So I suffered a severe brain injury. My left arm, my left hip were broken, and there was a lot of other injuries, but those are the ones, like, I still live with every single day. I was in Sunnybrook. I was in Sunnybrook from June 2014 to August 2014. I was in coma for 21 days. Even after I came out of my coma, I have no actual memory until end of August of 2014. And a lot of stuff I do know is mostly through stories that people told me. I don't have any actual, like, concrete memories. One second. And then, so towards the end of Sunnybrook, we were trying to figure out where I was going to go next. So what was it? Give me 1 second.
Good.
1 second. So at the end of August, I left and I went to TRI. And I was at TRI from I think I was like August 20 something till October 30th, day before Halloween. My first social worker at TRI was amazing. I give her credit for fixing my brain. Like, I didn't really understand what, like, I knew I was in a car accident, but I didn't understand, like, what was going on, what everything meant. And so talking to her at TRI really helped me. Like, it was great because I only saw her once a week, but if I saw her in the hallway and I wanted to just chit chat, she would just come and see me and she'd help me out. So she was great. I found, like, my first trip home was in Thanksgiving of 2014, and I always assumed I'd be walking to my front door, and so when I was rolling to my front door in my wheelchair, I just broke down. Like that was very hard. Like nice thing is like when I do break down, I do pull myself together fairly quickly, but it was still hard the first initial going home. But it just made me want to work on. But when I did go back to her, I just knew what I needed to work on to get myself better and better to go home. So going home was had its positives that I knew what to work on and how to help myself. Um, then after TRI, I went home and I had it, and then they towards the end of TRI, they had formed my team, and and they all a lot of them came to see me while I was at TRI just to meet me and understand me, and and my team was fantastic, fantastic. Like I had my social worker who I saw every week, but I still had the rest of my team who I treated like social workers. Like so, I essentially 5 days a week, I just had people to talk to, and that helped me a lot. Having people bouncing stuff off of, and just in my downtime, in my dark moments, like I could turn to one of them. It was really good. Like they were a team, my rehab team, but they're also like my friends. It was really good. Um, uh, I wasn't for the first year. I wasn't allowed. Well, roughly the first year, I wasn't allowed to be alone for on my own in the house. So so Kim had to go to work. So I had my mom come be with me while Kim went to work from September through June 2014, 2015. And and then Kim would come home at night, and at home like I I used to do a lot of stuff around the house before the accident. So now Kim has had to do all of that, and she was great. Like I can't not give her like going about how amazing she was through all of it. It was really good. And a lot of my friends came to see me on a weekly basis when I came. Like when I was at Sunnybrook and Tierra, like I saw my friends all the time. Like, I was at Sunnybrook, like I had a whole little corner that was just my friends and family. But then once I TRI, people came to see me every week, every few days. And then once I came home, people would come visit me all the time. So like, I had a really good support system with my friends and family. It was like that also helped me a lot because there were some hard times like that first year. Like I was very angry that first year, and so it was nice being able to have people to talk to and have fun with. And the nice thing about my friends was it was always I always felt like I they always treated me normally. I always felt like yes, we were all aware that I was in a car accident. Yes, we were aware like I'm not walking around the house. But the way they spoke to me, like it was always like everything was okay. And that helped a lot. Um like after my first got home, like it would get hard when the accident would get brought up. And so I just for me it was like if I want to talk about the accident, I will talk about the accident. It was hard for people to bring it up to me. And so like there are one second. Um uh, 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 let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
um so I was in a wheelchair when I got home, and I went from a wheelchair to a rollator, and then in a walker in the house. And but before we got married, I really wanted to walk down the aisle with my wife and dance with her. I worked on walking with my physio, and I got to the point where she would just hold these two fingers, and I would walk. It was something in my head. Like I even though I wasn't doing anything, I just knew somebody was there. But then one day she let go, and I just kept going, and that was amazing. That was like a few days before we left to get married. Um, and and so I lost my because of the my brain injury and all the injuries I sustained. I lost my driver's license, so I didn't get that back. till March or April of 2016. And then I had to do driver training, which was I didn't enjoy it, but looking back, I understand it was very important to my whole getting better. So looking back on it, I don't regret it, but at the time I was like, I just want to drive. That's all I want to do is drive. In 2017, me and my wife went away for our anniversary and went to go swim. And I discovered I can't swim. All of a sudden, I used to be able to swim before the accident. I was like, I couldn't swim, so I had to relearn to swim. And that like there was just even now, like I still discover things that I didn't know I couldn't do before, that I could do before, I can't do now. Give me 1 second.
Would you like me to play the video in the meantime?
Yes, play the video.
Okay. Wow. Great.
And so that video was Justin's first steps.
Yeah. Made my mom and my physio cry. I didn't cry because for me, I should have always been able to walk. So for me, it wasn't the same. I just assumed I should be able to do this because I used to be able to do this. It was just so the impact wasn't the same for me as it was for everybody else in my life. But unfortunately, that's how I process things. What's the next slide?
Did you want to discuss when you're uncomfortable driving in the winter and when going by the site?
Yeah, so I've driven past where my accident was dozens of times. Like I've driven past it so much that I can pinpoint exactly where my car was hit. And I've always been comfortable. And then when I had my daughter in the car with me and I'm driving, I actually tensed up. And so I realized, okay, never driving past it with her in the car with me. And then even though my accident was in the summertime, I get really uncomfortable driving in the winter, whether I'm with her, with Paisley or alone. I'm always uncomfortable in the winter and like really bad snow and stuff. So, because I guess, well, summer, like even though the accident was summer, I guess the winter, like it was more likely it could happen again. So I get uncomfortable when driving in the snow.
Oh, that's not what I want to click. There you
go. My emotions have changed a lot since the accident, since my brain injury. Like things hit me a lot harder than they used to. Like I cry fairly often when I'm watching stuff. But it's only when I'm watching stuff, and not like I didn't cry at my wedding, I didn't cry when my daughter was born, but I cry when I watch touching stories. And one day in 2015, I'm watching the Emmy Awards, and Tracy Morgan, who had his accident was a few days after mine. He comes out and presents an award. He's walking out on stage, and I just broke down. It was like, this is somebody like me who's fighting the same fight I'm fighting. I guess it was hard. But my emotion, like, I'm very sensitive when it comes to a lot of things. And I also have an issue with, I can't handle sudden changes. Like if I have a certain set structure for myself and I know what I want to do, I need to follow that structure. I can't just on the whim do something else. Like I need to follow a set plan in my head. And there was a day few weeks, it was actually a few months ago now, my daughter didn't want to go to school. I had planned that whole day out of my head. And so I wasn't planning, I didn't expect that. So she didn't want to go to school. And when Kim turns to me and she's like, are you gonna be okay? I said, I will manage. Probably not the right words to use, but unfortunately in my head, like that's all I could think of saying. I need to manage this. And so we had a great day. Like we had a great day when she stayed home, but it was just, it took me a moment. And then it was fine. So just a week later, I got a phone call from her school and they said, Paisley's coughing and sneezing a lot. Can you come get her? And so I got off the phone. I just sat there for a second, took a few deep breaths. I'm like, okay, my day's completely changing. And I just went. So I think so with the two examples, I think with the one, it was because Kim was right there. I didn't make the decision. Like in that moment, there was a lot going on for my head where when the school called me, I got off the phone, it was just me alone. And I just handled it on my own. I said, it wasn't being careful. I just was okay. I think that's how I want to explain that. Yeah. I've done many of these talks now, and I find myself all over the place and do these talks. And unfortunately, that's the best way I can be. I can't just follow a structure of what to say. I'm not sure you notice those first few slides. I actually felt a little stiff. Where now I'm actually not even looking at the slide now. I'm just talking. I just feel this is actually a lot easier. I'm one thing my social worker always points out to me is how self-aware I am about everything that's going on with me. Like I am like how I understand like when I talk about a scenario like with her, like I'm having an issue or something. As I'm telling her the situation, I actually solve it myself. And so my social worker sits there and like, I'm glad I can help. But then, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm actually gonna. Actually, I should. It was actually my social worker that pointed this out to me. I completely forgot about it. Was my pain. A lot of people aren't aware. Like I have coming constant 24/7 pain. When I'm medicated, the pain is like an itch you just can't scratch. But when I'm not medicated, it is a stabbing, sharp needles, and it's not fun. And so I actually find when I'm so even like the itch you can't scratch, it's still annoying. Like I still want to be able to manage that. And so when I just discovered and early on was like building Lego would distract me. So I built a lot of Lego. I watched movies and it would distract me. And it was just if I was writing or drawing something, if I keep my brain busy, I just didn't notice the pain in my feet very well. One of the unfortunate things with my brain injury is names. I have trouble with names. I used to be very good with names. I used to be able to play the name of my school teachers going back to kindergarten. I will meet somebody on my street and he'll give me his name. He walks away and I turn to my neighbor and go, what was his name again? It doesn't stick. And it's even to the point where I was at my company Christmas party a year after my accident. I was talking to a guy. I could tell you his entire life story. I couldn't tell you his name. Even now, I couldn't tell you his name. I don't remember. I can tell you where he lives. I can tell you everything about him, but I can't remember his name. And it's weird. It's a very odd feeling of like it just, and it's just one of those things where every so often I don't realize how much has changed because of that, because of my brain injury, where it's like doing things like getting a car for as best example. Like when I first started getting into a car in the passenger seat side of the car, I was in a wheelchair, so I would sit. I would get my butt into the chair. I would spin my legs around and sit. That's how I do it now, even now that I'm walking. I don't remember how I used to get into the passenger side of the car. I just know how to do it now. Same when I shower. I shower, I stand and I put my hand on the wall. I don't remember how I used to do that before. I know if I close my eyes, I'll lose my balance. So I have to keep myself steady. So I don't I don't remember how I used to do it. It's same with getting dressed. Like I watch Kim put her socks on standing. I have no idea how to do that. Like I just know to sit on my butt and to put my pants and socks on. Like I don't know how I used to do all that stuff. I just know how I do it post accident. It's my new normal is all for a lot of things. My new normal is all I know how to do. Um, what was the next slide? I'm actually just notes. So so it helps me is I actually keep notes in my phone. So I have like notes. I have calendar. I have just always have if anything happens, I always put it in my calendar. If I need something, I have to do something on a specific day or time. I put an alarm on my phone so I know. So like example, like I needed to contact my family doctor, so I set an alarm at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. Call your family doctor. So that's how I did it. Because I think it was like 3 weeks when Kim first said call a doctor, and I just kept forgetting. So I put an alarm on my phone, and then I did it. One of the things my first early on after the accident, like I'd always have to meet with different doctors about like to get an assessment on myself. And so for me, I would always talk about what I could do. And it's not, that wasn't what they were looking for. They wanted to know what I had trouble with, what I was having issues with. But I only knew what I could, I only want to talk about what I could do because I don't like being negative. I like talking about the things I can do and the good stuff I can do. Like this is another example of me bouncing around. Back at TRI, my physiotherapist, I was drenched in sweat. We're doing the staircase. She comes up to me, she goes, "Do you want to go one more time?" I said, "Yes." I had never saying no. I realized that saying no would just make it harder for myself. And that's, I think I kind of just lost myself for a second.
You always say yes because you always keep wanting to push yourself.
Yes, thank you. It's so even doing these talks this is like the third time I've done these talks, I still lose my lose my train of thought. One of the things after the accident was my speech. Like I had a speech therapist at TRI and I had a speech therapist at home. The one at TRI I found really helped me with emoting from on my face. So, because like a lot of times you could just be have that blank look, and so you'd be talking, but your face won't be matching what you're saying. And so she helped me work on showing the emotion in my face when I talk. So if I say anything happy, my face would be happy. If I'm saying something sad, my face would be sad. Still though, even to this day, it's still not perfect. Like me and Kim will be talking about something and I'll say something. And even though I'm saying one thing, my face is not matching at all. And which leads to disagreements. And it's hard, which is hard because I know how I feel when I'm saying, but it's hard when my face isn't matching exactly what I'm feeling in that moment. I'll go to work. I was a licensed steam fitter before the accident, and after I tried doing online school for workplace health and safety because that's what I used to do at work. It was one of the main things I did at work, and so I thought, well, that's something I can still do because I would never be able to work the physical job ever again. I did online course, lost interest fairly quickly. Went to film school, night school for film, lost interest in that. that was done very well. My teacher just showed us YouTube videos, and I'm like, I could do that at home. So that was just an awkward whole thing. But then because of all the Lego I had been buying because of my social worker's suggestion on it just takes away takes away the pain in the pain that I feel because I had so much of it. I decided to do stop motion animation with my Lego, and I made a short little film. I made a lot of shorts, but I made one like storyline one, like with beginning, middle, and end. And I submitted to a film festival in California, and it was a finalist. Didn't win, but my first one I've ever submitted, finalist. That's kind of cool. I always wanted to do film when I was in high school, and so now I just work. So now I'm working on another one, and I'm actually I'm working on making a comic book for my daughter as a Christmas gift, and I do all these talks. I've met with 3 other brain injury survivors. I've done 2 talks with U of T from the perspective to the physiotherapy students from the perspective of the patient, and I have a lot more talks lined up in the fall. And I like talking. I like doing it. I like helping. I like hopefully helping people. I don't know if it actually does. I just hope it does. Me telling my story, I hope it sits with people and it helps people. It's just, and so I really enjoy doing that. Like I remember when I first came home from TRI, my entire team, they all talked to me about talking to other brain injury survivors, doing support groups, stuff like that. I had no interest. I didn't want to talk to any of them, and I just want to I just want to get better. I just want to focus on myself, and but then after Paisley was born, it kind of was like almost like a switch went off my head. I'm like, I want to help people like me, and so I met with one of the Rangers survivors who had also just had a kid. So I met with them, and so that was a really good experience. And I kept meeting with other ones, and just realized like this is what I want to do. Like I know I'm not perfect at doing the talks, but I love doing them. I love talking about myself, like related in relation to this, and telling my story, and hopefully my story helps other people too. I'm I when Kim went back to work, and I was just me and Paisley, I started taking notes every single day. I would take a notes of what we did that day, any altercations that happened, any things that maybe like bumps in the road that could happen. I just wrote it all down, just kept the whole journal. And so I decided that maybe one day I want to turn that journal of me and Paisley into a book. And so I was working on a little bit pre-COVID, but then I kind of lost focus on it, and then I've been doing all these talks and stuff. So I do want to eventually go back to it, but it's not. It's kind of on the back burner right now. It's not something I'm focused on right now. I just want to do these talks right now. Having we don't know for sure if the accident affected me in any way when it came to having kids, because it took us a long time. It took us a long time to have Paisley, and so we ended up doing IUI, but then it worked the second time, and we had Paisley, who was the most amazing child in the world. I already talked about the journal. I do find so I will be short, and I overreact to stuff like spilled milk. Like I get really worked up over stuff that doesn't matter. And unfortunately, and so it was one thing when I would just do it, and Kim would see me do it, and and she wouldn't like it, but it was one thing when it was like that was one thing I was hard on its own. But now when Paisley sees me overreact, and then I watch her just playing around, and I watch her overreact, over nothing. And I was like, that's not what I want. That's not the impression I want to leave on her. So I need to work on that for myself and for Paisley. Like, and because of the way I overreact to things, and I get really bent out of shape over stuff that doesn't matter at all. And I know that looking back, but in that moment, it is like life or death for me for some reason. In that moment, it really matters. And it leads to altercate little tiffs between me and Kim. And then Paisley sees it, and I do want to get better. Like I'm actually going to on January 10th, Bears doing a support group, so I'm actually going to check it out because maybe that could help. I can only, like, even though it's been 7 years, I always can learn and change and keep going. There one time me and Kim were talking about something about me and my memory. And I said, this is me. This is me. This is going to be me forever. And Kim said, I don't like that. That means you're giving up. And when she said that, I'm like, that's right. Then that's not me. That's not me through all of this. I've never given up. I've always pushed myself all the time. And so I know I can get better. Just takes a lot. It's just going to take a lot of work. It's just, I've lost again tomorrow.
You want me to go on the next one?
Yes, please. Oh. That's where we got married. You can see the Disney castle behind us. That was the first time we had traveled after the accident. And so the airport, like I was in a wheelchair at that time, so the airport was not the most fun leaving. And so and it's like we got through it, but it wasn't the best experience. And now every time we travel, I get a little anxious because every single time we go, it could be security could be a different type of experience. I could be getting a hard time about my AFOs. I wear AFOs on my feet because I have a foot drop because of the damage in my hip, and so the nerves aren't growing properly in my aren't working very well in my left leg. So my left leg drops like this. I wear AFOs to lift my toes. Well, when I go through security, I have to keep my shoes on, and so sometimes that can be a little annoyance. And then there are other times where I go through security, and because I have tons of metal in me, and so that can set off the metal detectors. And so it's just every time I go to the airport, it's always a different experience for me. Sometimes it's been smooth sailing, but not always. And it can be hard. Like anxiety has been a big thing since the accident for me. Like in 2014 there was in 2014 there was a new Hunger Games movie out, and me and Kim were gonna go see it. I had bought tickets, so we were gonna go see it on Saturday, and I got very, very anxious, and we ended up going. And so then I think it happened. We think it was we bought tickets another time, and the same thing happened again. And so my RSW, my rehab support worker on my team, he's like, let's just go to the theater, let's just walk around. So he told the manager, we just want to walk around. We don't, because I haven't seen the movie, we just want to walk around. Just walked around the movie theater here in Whitby, and I felt great. It felt normal. And so that weekend, me and Kim went to the movies, and I've gone to the movies a million times since. I just find when I get anxious about something, if I'm able to push myself through it, it's usually never an issue ever again. It's just, but the airport isn't a good example of that because the airport is always different. So even though I'm anxious getting to the airport, it doesn't get resolved until I'm through security, once I'm through security, I'm good to go. Like flying is not an issue. It's just it's just getting through security. Luckily, my case manager, she wrote a letter for me, so it has lists off all my injuries, everything about me related to the accident. So if they ever, I've never had to present it yet, but if it was ever got to the point where I would like, if they ever were pushing so hard that I would have to, I have it. I always keep it. I always bring it with me when I travel, which is good. Uh,
Do you want to talk about the difference in the rooms after Paisley was born?
Pardon me?
You want to talk about the difference in the rooms after Paisley was born?
Yes. We used to, me and Kim used to travel, we would stay in a wheelchair accessible room because it has a walk-in shower. You have a bench, it was a lot easier. But when we had Paisley, we realized, well, we need a bathtub now. And so I had to learn to stand. And I know it sounds odd, but I essentially did have to learn to do it. And so I practiced. Luckily have a walk-in shower at home, and so I just learned to just stand and shower. So when we travel, it became a lot easier. And so it was just it's one of the few things. It's one of those things where it's just I have to change so that things are easier for Paisley. Really thought I was going to be more than that.
You ready for the next one?
Yes, please. Play the video first.
All right.
Cheer. Cheer for him. Tired?
Yes. That was a couple weeks shy of 7 years after my accident. It was just the end of May of this year. And I didn't know I could do that. And apparently I can. It's one of those things like being a dad, I don't know what I want to be able to do everything with Paisley. But there are things I know I'm never going to be able to do, like skiing, for example. It's not safe it doesn't make sense for me to go skiing because I don't want to hurt myself, and it's not worth the pros and cons. I'm not gaining anything from skiing, but I could lose more if things go bad. So I just rather not do it. And so remember Kim, beginning of this winter, she wanted Paisley to ski, and I'd always be grumpy when Kim would bring it up. I'd always be like, I don't like that because it's not something I can do. But then I was talking to my social worker about it, and we realized I can still go. I go to the chalet. She's going to be on the bunny hill for the first few years, so I can still walk out and watch her and take pictures and video, and so I can still be a part of it. And realizing all that, I'm like, it makes perfect sense. And so then when I realized I could run and kick a soccer ball, there's just more things I can do with Paisley now. Like it's just like I don't want the world around me to become easier so I can do stuff. I just need to adapt to how to do things differently. Because that's one of the hard things for me is I don't need things made easier for me. I don't need you to do stuff for me just because I have trouble doing something. I adapt. I always make things work. And it's one of the things I'm proud of is I've always been able to go into a situation and figure out, okay, how do I make this work for myself? And more often than not, I'm usually successful in being able to do things. I do have bumps down every so often when I do stuff. Like one time I was at my cousin's house. I was in the shower and I slipped and fell. I'm like, okay, that happened. Now I got to figure it out. So the next time I wore swimming shoes so that the grip on the sole, and it was perfect. So I adapt. It's been working perfectly so far.